Your greatest crisis in life may very well lead you to your greatest mission in life. Look at Nelson Mandela. He was incarcerated for 27 years as a political dissident. He went on from that crisis to lead a nation. Look at Helen Keller. She was born blind and deaf. That crisis led her to become an author and a political activist and an inspiration to Americans. Look at Maya Angelou. She was raped at the age of 8. The trauma of that event led her to not speak for 5 years. That crisis led her to become an incredible listener and observer of the world, which led her to become one of the world's greatest authors and poets. I'm Michael McCarthy.
And I'm Caroline Phipps.
Welcome to the Wisdom to Wellness Show. Caroline, it's great to see you again.
I'm thrilled to be here with you, Michael. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad we're having the opportunity to do another show.
It's very exciting.
Let me ask you this. Do you think our greatest life crises lead us to our life's missions?
Well, with my own experience, I think I have to say absolutely. It seems to me that we get many wake-up calls in life often. Mm-hmm. It's as if in my case particularly, a number of things happened and I ignored it and hoped that it would go away and then finally the sort of big one happens. I think that sort of, on your knees situation.
Do you think a crisis comes because the world is saying you're not listening and now we're giving you the sledgehammer lesson?
Yes, I think it might. In my own case, it was interesting. As you may recall, I was a fashion executive. Mm-hmm. I was living a pretty fast life. I was drinking a little bit too much. I had 2 marriages that had gone awry. Mm-hmm. I was suffering from a love affair also gone wrong with a broken heart, and was constantly trying to stop the pain and basically run away. Mm-hmm. And in one of my efforts to run away, one day I was galloping an ex-racehorse off the track up a long grassy slope. Okay. And as I came over the brow of the hill, there were these giant holes in the ground and the woodchucks had been there. And I tried to move the horse over, couldn't move him over, and his left front hoof caught one of the holes. And as he stumbled and tried to save us, he catapulted me up in the air and I came down on the small of my back on hard ground. It was August and 96 degrees. I went back up in the air and came back down on the same place on my back and bam. So I was out riding with no cell phone, nobody knew where I was, and the only way I could get help was to crawl on my hands and knees to the road.
Literally roadkill. Literally
roadkill. So I managed to make it to the road and I was lying on my back on the side of the road. And as I looked up, there were turkey vultures above my head, circling in this blue sky. And I thought, oh my goodness, I am no better than a rabbit that's been run over. This is, I am toast. This is really a bad scene. And I could feel how badly hurt I was. Mm-hmm. Anyway, somebody eventually came and I got sent to the hospital and I was in the emergency room and was told your back is broken in 2 places.
Ouch.
2 words that you don't want to hear in the same sentence at all. I remember thinking, good heavens, this is really, a big thing, but aren't I lucky I'm not paralyzed, because True. I was probably a nano away from that. And then the doctor who was in charge of the emergency room, she said to me, we're going to fill you up with morphine and give you a back brace and we're going to send you home. And she said, but...
Send you home?
And send me home.
That day?
That day. Yeah, they put you in a back brace that resembles bondage gear from a sort of Jean-Paul Gaultier collection.
Okay.
So you put this thing on, and it keeps you upright, and you have to remain upright. So you can walk and you can lie down, but you can't sit or bend or anything. So I was given the morphine shots and sent on my way. But before she sent me out the door, she said, "You need more than the painkillers that I'm prescribing for you."
What does she mean?
And she wrote something on a piece of paper and popped it in my pocket. Well, I wasn't in a fit state to really be aware of anything.
Right.
So for the next few weeks, I was, just mending as best I could and getting used to the idea that my back was broken. And I one day found the piece of paper in the pocket and I read it, and it was a book title. I mean, extraordinary that the head of an ER would give you a book title.
Like a homework assignment?
Like a homework assignment. And it turned out to be, I think, an assignment from the universe, because it was Carolyn Mace's Anatomy of the Spirit. And I remember thinking, what a curious title, because anatomy makes me think of bones and bodies, and spirit makes me think of, we're spirits in a material world, and how do these two things go together?
Well, you broke more than your back.
Maybe. And that's perhaps what the universe was telling me. And in hindsight, I think that's absolutely true. So moving on down the road, I managed to get to the bookstore one day. And as I walked in through the door, they have those promotion tables with the round tables and books piled up. And there's the Anatomy of the Spirit right there.
Right
the book
in front?
of the month, yes. And I thought, wow, I think I better buy this book.
That's the clear message from the universe.
Yes, exactly. Buy the book. Anyway, I bought the book and I took it home, and I had to read it flat on my back, sort of looking up like this to read it, because I couldn't sit propped up. But I spent that entire night reading the book, and it was all extraordinary and spoke to me. But the part that really spoke to me was when she says, "Don't look to another person to make you happy."
God, I wish I'd broken my back and been in that ER when I was like 20. I used to do, that's great advice. I used to do that.
Yes, and I realized that my whole life had been about finding the next thing, the next person, the next job that was going to make me happy. And I realized I had to get this idea that the answer for it all is within you. And that is the most empowering thing. And so I gradually started to change things, bought 5 self-help books.
Yeah. So was that your big learning?
Yeah, so that was my big learning. That was the key, I would say. And then I just started reading my self-help books and elaborating on the process. And then I decided that I needed a career that aligned my heart and my soul and my spirit together. And I signed up for IIN, the nutrition school in Manhattan.
Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Absolutely.
That's where you told me to go.
Right.
And it was great. I loved it. Thank you.
And it's a holistic approach to well-being, and at the same time it gives you the tools to help other people, because I had a desire that I was being given advice from the universe, and that I felt it was a sacred trust in a way to then pass that on to other people.
That's what Maya Angelou says, that when you learn something, go out and teach it. It feels like a natural...
I guess it does, and that was very much a part of the impulse. Anyway, so I then was doing that, and I was coaching clients, and it was all wonderful. And of course I'd met a wonderful new man who was marvelously supportive and one of the strongest people I knew, and a brilliant filmmaker, Dennis Watlington, and we set up home together. And 4 years later, he suffered multiple strokes in the middle of the night, and we were on our way to Albany in an ambulance with him, with them telling me, I think he's going to die on the way.
I remember the phone call a few years ago when that happened.
And the awfulness of that. And I thought, well, here I am. I've already done all these classes in what I call Earth School.
That's a good term for it.
Right?
Yeah.
Earth School, you sign up. And as I was on my way to Albany, I thought, oh my goodness, I've signed up for the PhD in Earth School, because this is serious. This is really where the rubber meets the road, right?
You had your resilience built up.
Yes. And just as well, because suddenly I'm in the medical matrix, everywhere that a holistic health counsellor doesn't want to be.
Exactly.
Everything is not as it's meant to be. No kale juice in there, you know.
No, not to be found.
Yeah.
Just green Jell-O. That's as close as they get.
Exactly. So 3 years on, I've been putting all of my mind, body, spirit work into helping Dennis. But in that system of hospitals and nursing homes and rehab facilities, I have found nothing but sort of what I would describe as elegant behaviour.
What do you mean?
Where people under the direst conditions turn things around and are extraordinary. And it's not about external elegance, which has its place, but that idea of internal elegance where you align mind, body and spirit together, and you can start to go with the flow of life and work out solutions to problems.
Kind of like a grace under pressure?
Yes, a grace under pressure kind of an idea. So from that, my recent crisis, if you like, has brought me to my new mission, which is exploring inner elegance.
I like the sound of it.
Which is a place where I've sort of deliberately set up a website that can be a sanctuary for people where we can share elegant ideas. Mm-hmm. So I'm, for example, doing a series about elegance Elegance is Everywhere, where we're taking the cameras out and capturing the stories of people who turn just the most horrible things in life around and turn them in a graceful way into something extraordinary that helps other people.
I love it.
So that's a series we're doing, which is really fun.
Congratulations.
So, thank you very much.
So your crisis did lead to a mission.
It certainly did, and it's really fun to do so. Now, you too have a great story, because when I first met you, you were in the middle of your crisis.
I was in some form of mental roadkill at the time. Similar to you, I didn't just have one crisis. I had a short series of them. The first was, I was 36 years old. I'm 47 now. And I was 10 years into a money management firm I had started when I was 26. So I was managing about $250 million. Everything was going well. And I ended up in the emergency room. My blood pressure was 220 over 110.
Oh.
I was a few points away from a stroke. And my family doctor was a personal friend of mine. And she knew that my father was the youngest man in the world to have a 5-way bypass. He was, I think, around 34 at the time.
Oh, my word.
And she said to me, Michael, you're not going to make it to 40 at the rate that you're going, and with your family history.
Right.
I didn't really pay that much attention to her. It wasn't until the ER doc came in at Charles MGH in Boston, and he said, we want to keep you overnight because we can't stabilize your blood pressure. And I knew enough about medical care that they do not want you overnight. Like
I broke my back,
you broke your back and you didn't stay overnight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have high blood pressure and
Yeah.
they want me overnight.
Right.
That scared me.
Yeah, that's serious.
So I had an entire night in the hospital with an IV in my arm to think about what I've done with my life. And I was very happy professionally about what I had done, but
Right.
I could see, with all the drinking and being overweight and the high stress and the family history, I never went back to work. I called up my business partner.
Literally never went back?
I never went back. I called my business partner and I said, everyone dies young in my family because of this.
Wow.
So I'm going to listen. And I was lucky enough where I'd saved enough money where I could retire early.
Right.
So it sounded like a good story, retiring young and
Sure.
successful, but it wasn't. It was very depressing. It was very boring. I started to get anxiety and a lot of guilt over being able to support myself without working. I didn't give myself the credit that I'd saved. And all my friends were at work doing something and I'm at home. So I started drinking a lot, started smoking a lot of pot, pretty much to just kill time. And it wasn't until about 6 years into that lifestyle, I was around 42, that I went through a nasty divorce, which was pretty bad. Not that it's a competition, I think everyone's divorce is bad, but this was, for me, bad. It was my first one. And Then I lost about 90% of my net worth to Bernie Madoff.
Oh, Bernie.
And then I got carbon monoxide poisoning.
How did you get carbon monoxide poisoning?
I was in a rental property in Cape Cod. It was a vacation home, and the carbon monoxide alarm, no one changed the battery, and there was a leak. And
wow.
So it was on vacation. I was on vacation when it happened.
And of course, there's no smell, no nothing. It just happens, and you're suddenly on your way to a coma.
Basically, completely painless, and I wasn't even in a bad mood while it was happening.
Right.
Same thing with high blood pressure and a stroke. You don't feel any pain. It's not uncomfortable at all. Mm-hmm. So that basically really stopped me in my tracks. I remember waking up one day, and I had been through a lot of trouble with panic attacks. And I had had 15 days in a row.
Goodness.
And I'd been through 24 different psychotropic drugs, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medicine, which killed my sex drive, which that led to the divorce.
And that's depressing.
That was depressing. And then it was almost 200 pounds. Now I'm 158. So just imagine 50 more pounds on top of this.
Goodness.
And I just woke up one day and I said, if tomorrow's like today, I don't want it.
Wow, that's big.
That was when I realized, okay, that's kind of suicide talking. And I went outside of my home and I looked up in the sky and I said, God, I hate to be one of these schmucks that asks you for help at the last minute, but
right.
I've taken every pill, I've seen every shrink, I've read every book, I've been to every seminar. I'm out of ideas. And I just said,
gotta hand it over, I guess.
And I kind of did, but I felt guilty. I didn't want to just ask for help. And I said, let me make you a deal. And I thought, oh my God, am I making a deal with God? Do it.
Right.
And I said,
that's funny.
Yeah, I said, if you teach me how to be happy,
yes.
I will teach others. And I got really nervous because I thought, okay, you can't make a deal with God and walk away from it. So let me take a walk in the woods and think about it. And I did. And for the first time in months, I got excited about an idea and I thought, I might like this.
Oh, what a thrill.
I might actually enjoy this. It wouldn't be doing penance or paying back a debt. I might actually enjoy this. And I went back to Harvard to study positive psychology, and I learned you can learn how to be happy again. And I just started studying Reiki, acupuncture, yoga, positive psychology, journaling, gratitude lists. From there, I learned during the whole process that I actually had very severe nutrition deficiencies because I was eating out at restaurants, so I wasn't watching the diet.
Right.
I was drinking a lot of alcohol, which I did not know strips a lot of your vitamins. And that increases anxiety and depression because you're not fully nourished.
Right.
I completely changed my diet, and within 36 hours, I had my last panic attack ever. And I was so inspired by it, by nutrition.
Phenomenal.
And that was when we met at the party at the Horse Institute, and I was telling you, and you encouraged me to go to the nutrition school. And that was when I got excited about learning about superfoods, and I thought, what if I made a food company to make snacks for brain function? And that was where Booty bars were invented. Booty is Sanskrit for wise, all the ingredients do something for the brain. And I was a money manager. I'm not a baker.
Right.
So I moved to Germany.
It's a stretch, yes.
It was a big stretch. Moved to Germany and became a commercial artisan baker. Then I came back to the United States and made the company. I've really enjoyed it. I've met a lot of people, but I want to actually do more. And so the mission that I've come up with is I want to teach people how to be happy. I want to do workshops and seminars. And part of this television show is teaching people what I've learned, because I've spent so much time on it.
Right.
It's very expensive to go to all these seminars. It's very time consuming. A lot of people have not had the ability to do that. And I just want to pass that along, because no one should be suffering the way many of us do. And a lot of us do suffer in silence. And I think it's very unnecessary. So that's the mission that I've brought from all of my crises.
So essentially there's a theme here, isn't there? That crisis turns to mission, and so often we feel as if we get helped by the universe and then we need to carry it forward.
What I've also learned is I'm learning from other people's crises. And I find some of the lessons are different than the lesson that was given to that person. For example, you. You had your crisis with Dennis,
Right.
who got a stroke because he smoked too much. It was that experience that finally put me over the edge, that made me stop smoking. And what it really was is, from your experience, I realized most people think when you're smoking, you're just going to die. You're
Right.
going to die early,
Yeah,
have
you're
a heart
gonna
attack,
die.
and
Yeah,
it's over.
yeah.
And I thought, okay, I
deal.
will accept that responsibility.
Right.
But that's not what to be afraid of. What you should be afraid of is what happened to Dennis, having a stroke and surviving,
Right.
and having to deal with living in rehab, and the burden that it's given you, that you've had to pay
Right.
some of the price of his unhealthy lifestyle. And I
Right.
thought to myself, I'm single now. There's no one's going to come to my rehab center
Right.
and bring me the kale juice.
Right. Right.
And when I realized no one can take care of me, it's me.
Yes.
That was when I realized I don't have a caretaker, and I might not just die, I might just become disabled.
Yes.
And that scared me to death.
Yes.
And that is what tipped me over the edge. It's an unfortunate thing that happened to you, but I'm grateful that I was able to get some benefit from that, because now I'm healthier for it, and I'm a non-smoker thanks to you.
Well, I think one of the other interesting things about that is that as people who are trying to live an authentic life, one of the hardest things for us is the idea of honoring the self. Because it feels indulgent, narcissistic, and ego-driven. And we know people who are going off to their yoga all the time and drinking their kale juice and, you know, all the rest of it. And it is a very selfish mode. But there's the other side of it, which is when we care for ourselves, then we are caring for ourselves in a way that then we can be of service to other people.
It's fun to serve.
And it's fun to serve.
I think that's one of the things that I never thought about, but now I understand why people volunteer. It's almost a selfish pleasure.
Right.
It feels really good.
Yeah, it feels
to
really
help
good.
other people.
Yes.
And it's almost hard to describe. I would just encourage people, try it.
Yes.
Go help someone,
Right.
and you walk away thinking,
Yes.
wow, that was just it. I think we're meant to do that.
I think actually it's been biologically proven that acts of kindness impacts the cells in our body in some kind of a way, which is incredibly positive. It creates a chemical change, I think.
I feel stronger when I've helped someone.
Right.
And I think it's because it's empowering that I'm strong enough I can take care of myself,
Yes.
and I'm strong enough that I can help you as well. I
Right.
have enough extra
Right.
that I can do that.
Well, it's interesting. What I learned from you was sort of meeting you when we were both kind of, you know, navigating turning the crisis into the mission, was I was very inspired by the way that you went about putting the pieces of your life back together and sort of those building blocks. And, you know, we would come together periodically and share things and ideas. And it just made me feel, wow, how wonderful it is to have somebody on the road with me, you know, on the journey with me.
It's nice to have you along too.
Yes, so the idea, one of the things that I've done on my Exploring Inner Elegance website is this idea of I'm going to put together collaborators in elegance.
Oh, I like that.
Yes, and elegance in action is interesting to me because when we come together with people who are putting an elegance initiative together for themselves, there's a synergy that happens. So that people in a room helping one another or supporting one another even long distance, we're greater than the sum of our individual parts when we come together.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And if you imagine, you know, a flock of geese flying along on their way to somewhere, rarely do you see a goose alone, right? They fly as a team, and they rotate the leader the whole time, because it means that they are stronger in a group. Their survival is more assured, and the ones that are in the front are making the headway for the ones who can have a rest behind. So I love that whole idea
Changing
of
leadership.
synergy, yeah, and rotating leadership, and being the change that you want to see in the world.
Nice.
So that's definitely what I experienced from you and your crisis. It's been profoundly helpful to me in my life.
Well, I'm glad I could help.
Michael, you've always got interesting things on the go, and I'm curious to know whether this whole idea of learning from one another and being on the journey together, is there anything that you've been doing with that recently that has an application for you?
It's funny. I'm a teaching assistant at the Entrepreneurship and Innovation class at Harvard's Extension School, and I started taking that class when I made the food company, because I wanted the structure and the deadlines to make a company happen. And when I was done with the class, I loved it so much, the professor asked me if I would be the teaching assistant. And I said yes, because I wanted to be the class mentor and encourage the students to continue on.
And it must be fascinating to be around young people who are that bright.
It was energizing. It also
Yeah.
kept me on task, because as the class mentor and teaching assistant, I have to have a successful startup myself.
Yes, truly.
So I intentionally put pressure on myself to stay on task.
Right.
And one of the fun things that I'm allowed to do as the TA is teach one class per semester at Harvard. And I asked the professor, what can I do best for the students? And he said, tell them about your experiences. So I would tell them about the money management firm, because that was the most successful. And that was the first year of students.
Did that make your blood pressure go up again, talking about the money management?
No,
You're a little detached now.
I kind of missed it. I did miss the action.
Right.
And I missed, being an important, successful person. But in the second year, I had the food business that was really going, and I started to talk about the emotional compensation you get from a business that's doing something good and doing something well.
So there's an emotional remuneration.
I was explaining to the students, as I was explaining it to myself, because it was a new discovery, that
Right.
money is not the only compensation. There's the satisfaction of, yeah, I'm not making nearly the money I did on the food business than I did with the money management, but I get such nice things from customers that is compensating when they say, thank you for making some good, clean food. And on the third year that I was doing the class, I just didn't want to talk about myself anymore. I felt that it was being boring and redundant. Even though it was a new class of students,
Right.
I was bored with listening to my own voice. And I thought, how could I make this more engaging for the students? How can I do something better? And that was when I came up with the idea of live case studies, because all case studies at business schools are past tense. IBM had this challenge, and this is how they resolved the issue, and this is what they did, and here's
everything's all right now.
It was all past tense.
Right.
I thought, what if I came in with a live case study where there wasn't a solution, but there was an existing problem, and the students had to figure it out. So I went into class, I brought in a guest speaker, and we both presented the students with a real live problem. And we broke them up into groups and had them turn into an advisory board to tell us what to do.
And what did they make of that?
They felt
Initially.
well, in the beginning, they were excited by something new and different, because they'd never heard of it before.
Right.
And they immediately became very engaged. The one smart thing that I did is I made sure the groups were no larger than 5. Because groups larger than 5 tend to get caught down in their own bureaucracy.
Right.
And I wanted to have it large enough where we're getting diverse opinions,
Yes.
but small enough where they would still be efficient and come to a conclusion with a recommendation.
And I imagine the student body there is very diverse.
The extension school is, because that's the night school,
Right.
and anyone can apply. You just sign up for the class and you come.
People from everywhere, around the globe, every culture, every...
The extension school students are, I feel, and I've heard this from other people, are more engaged than other student bodies at Harvard because they really want to be there.
Right.
They're doing a full-time job, they're running families, they have other things, and they're taking the time to come at night to do this.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
It is.
Big commitment.
So I went to them and I said, okay, I have this food bar called Booty Bar. Booty is the Indonesian word for wise. The food was made for brain function. No one really cares about that. It's not appetizing brain food. So I need a new tagline. My tagline was Be Wiser.
Right.
So I said, here's the Booty Bar, that's its name, taste it, break up into groups and give me a tagline. And I didn't know what they were going to come up with, and I made sure not to tell them too much information. Just, here it is, blank slate. The first student that came up, we were videotaping everything so I would remember it. And he came up to the microphone and he said, Booty Bar, for mind, booty, and soul.
It's adorable.
I loved it. The minute he said it, I was like, that's it. That is it.
It's on message, it's adorable, it's got pizzazz.
It was perfect. It was, and the minute I heard it, it was perfect. And every single person who I tell them my tagline for Mind, Booty, and Soul, they all do the same thing, and they smile.
How wonderful.
They smile. And they also laugh. They don't know why.
Yes, I know. Well, it's darling. I mean, it's lovely.
And all you need to do is just have your name be remembered. And it was perfect. And the feedback we got at the end of class, because we asked for feedback at the end of every class, what did we do well, what could we do better?
Right.
Every student felt important. They felt engaged. And from there, I decided to take the class and make what I call the Harvard Mastermind Group. And I started it several months ago. And what we do is that we put up to 10 people into a room and we spotlight you, for example. You come with your 3-minute bio.
Right.
So we all know who is in the room and why. And then you then have a spotlight of 3 minutes to explain a current challenge that you need help on.
Right.
So it has to be a real problem. You really can't figure it out.
Right.
And then you ask for some sort of resolution that you're looking for.
So are they essentially the criteria for people who are welcome to come for the group?
Originally it was come with a startup question for a startup business.
Okay.
How do I raise money? How do I
Right.
hire employees? It was all entrepreneurial
And
related.
business related.
Business related.
Yeah.
And what we did that I felt was very effective is that if you came with the challenge, we made you leave the room for the 10 minutes that we would contemplate your issue. And I learned that from being on an advisory board at Babson College where they did it. And I asked them, why are you doing that? And they said, the speaker's own self-limiting beliefs will get in the way of the problem solving.
Oh, that's so interesting, because we have these stories about ourselves, don't we? I can't do that because of this. I can't think about that because I had this happen to me. We have a narrative that we carry with us, a story.
You're going to say, that won't work. I tried that. No, no, no. My lawyer says you can't do that. No, that's not going to work. Forget it. Don't bother. I've tried it. All that does is stop the process. So we kick you out of the room.
Right.
When we bring you back, we don't let you talk.
So you can't be the spoke in your own wheel.
You can't.
Right.
We get you out of your own way.
Right.
When you come back to get the advice and the recommendations for your consideration, we tell you can't talk.
Right.
You turn on your smartphone, put on record, and we roll the smartphone around the room, and everyone gives the feedback for your recommendations to consider. We hit the stop button, we give it to you, and then we go to the next person. And it's boom, 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 boom around the room.
So it's incredibly dynamic. It's almost like sort of, like the whole idea of speed dating, where everybody is.
It's very fast, and I took the very strict time limits from Toastmasters, where
yes.
that's an international organization to help people do better public speaking.
Right.
Everything there is very formal, very timed, very regimented, and the
Yes.
time goes really, really quickly.
Right.
So we do, okay, you have 3 minutes to talk, and we hit the gong, you're
Yes.
done.
Yes.
You're out of the room for 10 minutes, now you're back. 5 minutes of feedback, you're done, we're off to you.
So you better be able to explain your problem in 3 minutes.
We have shut people off.
Right.
And
Yes,
they
because
have-
I imagine they may come with a laundry list.
They don't even get past rambling about what their name is. We don't even know what they do for a living. And
Right.
they've been shut off and they know they have to come back next week.
Oh, interesting. So it shuts it off there, and then they come back next week and hopefully ready for their 3-minute
They
delivery.
get in line. They get in line quite quickly. The first time that we did it, I was trying to get it together, so we were being relatively experimental. So I wanted to make sure everyone got benefit.
Right.
So we would spend all the time in the world on you, and then we would go to the next person. I wanted every person to speak. The time flew. Everyone felt good. It felt like we were there for 5 minutes.
Right.
And we looked at our watches, and we were in that room for 4 hours.
Oh, that's amazing.
Have you ever sat in a room for 4 hours
Really,
and felt
had
like
it. Yeah.
the time just flew?
Yes.
The same thing happened in the next meeting. And I had to look back and figure out, why are people engaged? Why is time flying? Why are
Yeah.
people in flow?
Yes, what actually happens there? Because when you are in flow, you never look at your watch when you're in flow. do you?
Exactly.
You just go and look up, and there it is. The time's gone by, and you've been almost somewhere else.
Yes, here's what I discovered. Everyone is 100% engaged 100% of the time. So let's dissect that. Let's say that the spotlight is on you with Caroline and Caroline's current challenges.
Right.
Obviously, you're interested in that because
course.
you're talking about yourself. People are listening to you, and you're
Right.
getting help.
And you're getting attention.
Exactly. When you're getting the feedback for the 5 minutes you're recording, it's the All About Caroline show. That's great.
Right.
What happens when the spotlight then goes to me or somebody else? Now you're an expert. I'm asking for your advice on how to solve my problem. And
Very
not,
nice.
not only are you an expert, but I want to hear your opinion.
Right.
You're now important, and you're helping another person.
Right.
You're volunteering. So I'm hitting all these buttons at the same time, and I had no idea that we were getting this sort of impact. Now what's happened is that we've expanded the group to regular entrepreneurs outside of the Harvard class, because a lot of the Harvard
Right.
students had not actually started businesses.
Right.
And some of their advice to others was not realistic. It was,
Yes, I imagine they're probably in some kind of Ivy League bubble, are they?
well, that's a nice way
Yes,
to put it.
yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. I
No
mean, some
feet
of them
on the ground there.
I got very frustrated at some of the feedback because
Yes.
they were saying things like, well, Caroline, if you need to raise money, just gather up a group of investors and have an initial public offering and list it on the New York Stock Exchange and just issue some stock. And I'm sitting here thinking...
And I'm worried about paying the rent on my new building.
Exactly.
Right.
So my solution to that was I opened the group up to real entrepreneurs who had startups, who were dealing with the I have to pay the rent,
Right.
and
The
I
real
need to
deal.
fill up my gas tank, and I need the $50, which isn't there. And that brought them down into reality, but it also brought those people who were being mired down by how do I pay for the tank of gas to the high-flying idealists who were saying do an
Oh.
IPO. So people started exchanging levels,
Oh,
the
interesting.
altitude of thinking.
Ah, the altitude of thinking
So
is a great
we were
word.
bringing
Expression.
down the Harvard students, and we were raising up the startup people. And we've continued to expand it more because I thought, well, a realistic issue would be, what if you want to start a business, let's say it's a tech company, and you're married and you have children, and you have to consider having a nanny. And it's an issue of, this is the stopping point. Do I get a nanny? Because I don't have time to raise my child now. So what are the issues? How do I hire a nanny? What do you pay a nanny? What's it like to have a stranger in your house? Will the kid be calling the nanny mommy and daddy?
How do I deal with the guilt?
And there's all these issues that
Yes.
if you can't get past having a nanny, you're not going to do the startup. So
Right.
that personal issue needs to be brought to the group to say, who's dealt with a nanny issue?
Right.
Because that's really my business issue. And then I thought, well, what about personal issues? I'm
yes.
not getting along well with my partner, and that's hurting my motivation to get my startup going. And I thought, every issue is an issue that we all need help on. We all need to bring in. And so I basically expanded the group to any challenge you have is free game.
So everything from business to personal life, relationships, spiritual crisis.
Addiction,
Addiction,
money,
right.
death, depression, exercise, weight loss, nutrition. Everything. It's all interrelated.
Yes, of course.
Everything is
Right.
interrelated with
Right.
everything else.
Yeah.
So, and wouldn't you learn something that day? But you'd learn how to hire a nanny. You'd learn how to make a great breakfast shake. You would learn how to find a CFO.
Right.
Why? And you're just learning. Why not expand what you know? So it's been a great experience, and I'm really happy that it's happening, because I never know what I'm going to come out with.
Yeah, it must be thrilling. So give me an example of somebody who's really been helped by the group.
It's funny you say that. I think our greatest help was a term that I borrowed from you, which is fearless feedback, that I really want to help you, and maybe what I have to help you with best is telling you something that may not be something you want to hear.
Right, yes.
We had an entrepreneur come, very nice guy. He had worked for a large consumer packaged goods company who were used to the $50 million budgets to launch a food product.
Right.
And he came up with his own homemade iced tea, which was delicious, and it was natural, etc. And he said, I'm going to spend 6 months to do this, and $100,000. My wife supports it. If we fly, we fly. If we don't, at the end of 6 months or $100,000, I'm going back to the corporate world. He came to our group and said, I'm at $100,000 and 6 months, and I'm not supporting myself. Our own limiting beliefs were, we're going to make this guy's company work.
Right, so you had limiting beliefs
We had
about
limiting
what
beliefs.
you were all going to say to him to make it all be okay.
Because we were all prejudiced that, oh, he just
Yeah.
needs to be encouraged, get the
So-
passion back.
Yeah, so you were rooting for the nice natural tea and the entrepreneurship and getting out of the corporation.
And we got the wake-up call.
Ah, interesting.
The guy was in Connecticut, and he was calling into our Boston meeting on Skype. So we had him on the laptop screen. And I said to him, give me your elevator pitch, which is the short 1-minute sales
Right.
pitch on what your company is and why it's so great. And he was looking straight at me when we were talking in the meeting. Mm. When I said, give me your elevator pitch, he looks up and to the right, and he starts reading a paragraph of his elevator pitch, which was clearly taped to the side of his computer monitor.
Oh, so it wasn't in here.
And I was like, I cannot believe someone who starts their own business is reading their 1-minute pitch of
Right.
who, what, why, and where I exist. And I thought, this is sterile and benign. That was what I picked up. The women in the group, which is why I like to have a diverse group, women are better listeners than men, and they're more intuitive. That's my belief. And they picked up on the fact that he did not have the passion. He didn't have that burn in his belly.
Right.
And they picked up on it. And this one woman, she was one of our students from Harvard. She was from Turkey. And she said, you know, your wife has more passion about your business than you do. And it wasn't her idea. And our recommendation was, you're not into your own idea enough. You don't have enough fire in your belly. And we recommend that you go back to the cubicle. And he shut his company down.
Goodness.
We were very surprised that that was our recommendation, but it was from his feedback.
Yes, right. And what did he say about that? Did he seem relieved?
Yes.
Do you think? Yes.
It was almost like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
thank God, I
thank God."
have permission to do what I really want to do.
Right, which is go back into this safe, systems-orientated place where I know who I am and I know what I'm doing.
And his ego was in it like all of ours are. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to go back to the large company with my tail between my legs
Right.
saying I failed.
Right.
And the way we look at it is, it's not failure, it's
Right.
feedback.
Right.
It wasn't a fit, it didn't work, it was a great idea, you tried it.
Right.
The feedback is not what you were looking for, but the feedback is what you got.
Yes.
Better to just go with the flow than try to resist.
Well, it sounds as if you did him the most enormous favor in a way to almost give him the permission.
In hindsight, I'm glad that we did it. In the beginning,
Yeah.
I felt a little bad because he never came back to the group. We found out through the grapevine that he had closed his company and was quite relieved by it.
Yes, I'm
Because he
sure.
had just had a baby.
Well, then,
The
you know,
monetary...
and there's all that whole idea of everything we do is interconnected. So there would be another stress and a strain, and he would be worried about that and making it work. And you know, it's an interesting thing. The whole idea of fearless feedback, because often we don't want to hear things and then they resonate. And in his case, actually, he ended up wanting to hear it. So
yeah, and most of the feedback that we get is, well, we had another one, two young gentlemen. They were in their early 20s. They made a food bar, like myself, and they had two backers. One guy wanted to give them $20,000 for a 15% cut of their business, and the other was a billionaire. And they didn't know who to take money from. And we gave them different feedback. And we said, to give away 15% of your company for such a small amount of money, you're being ripped off.
Right.
Don't even call this guy back.
Right.
And so they needed the encouragement from us to say, look, you're desperate for money, you're 20 years old, say no to the 20 grand.
Right.
Because you're really going to regret that you gave up 15% of Nabisco, if that's what your company turns out to be.
Yeah, down the line it could look very bad.
And with the billionaire, we said, look, you're in your 20s. You're not the team to make a huge company. If a billionaire wants to play ball, they're going to get a real team. Tell the guy, I don't want your money, but we do want your advice. Ask him out once a month. Would he allow you to buy him dinner once a month and get his advice?
Oh, interesting.
We thought that was the best value, because the billionaire would be like, wow, finally someone who doesn't want me for my money.
Right.
Because I've met billionaires because I was a money manager, and I thought that is the way to tap the greatest value out of a billionaire, is not to ask for their money, but to ask for their advice.
Very wise.
And I think that was going to be, and they were very, we always get emails back later, and they're always thanking us for the clarity and the opinions, and it just, as long as we can give them a clear decision, then it's something helpful. And we actually now want to expand it even further.
Well, I think one of the interesting things is that when you are presenting your problem to a group like that, whenever you're talking about your problems to your friends or your family, they have a vested interest in the outcome. So you don't get necessarily sort of unconditional feedback. And I think one of the interesting things to me, it sounds like, with the group, is that people aren't vested in, there wasn't anybody in the audience who was vested in keeping that man in his business, and there wasn't anybody vested in sending him back to the corporation.
It was objective.
So it's clean. It's very clean, I think.
And we're very careful about our participants, because we want exactly that. We want you to come in, we want you to give, and we want you to get.
Right.
But we also want you to do it cleanly.
Cleanly. So how do you make sure that people who are joining the group fit that profile?
I'm pretty clear in the criteria in the beginning, where I say you need to want to get help, and you need to want to listen to other people.
Right.
For one, because a lot of people don't take help.
And
the other is, you need to be willing to give help. If you are of the spirit that I'm not competitive with every other person in the world, that I feel a benefit by being a part of a community, that I love to help and I'm willing to be helped, and you know who you are, then you belong. And if you're not like that, it's going to show.
Right.
So just don't show up if that's your criteria. And everyone that has come has been very giving, and they've been very surprised at how much they've gotten out of it. And I actually want to grow this bigger.
So where do you think this could go? Because it sounds like a fascinating process that is available everywhere you go, really.
Well, what I'm interested in doing at this point is raising the bar. Right now I'm helping people with their startups, and I'm expanding that to their personal issues.
Right.
But I want to make it even further. I want to do workshops where I take someone, and I certainly want help with this, where someone comes with their crisis.
Right.
A crisis on the level of yours and mine.
Right, right.
And I only want those participants to come with 3 criteria. One is, have some life crisis where you think there is a learning for you, that you're getting some kind of wake-up call.
Yeah, even if you don't know what it is.
Exactly. We absolutely. You don't need to know. Yeah. It's fine to be like, someone's knocking at my door. I'm getting a message. I'm getting a learning, and I don't know what to do with it. That's the first.
Right.
The second is to be willing to listen to whatever that lesson may be. Just be open that there is a lesson here.
Right.
And I'm willing to listen to it, and I'm willing to change. For obviously I've had so many crises, or one large enough that now my ears are open, and I'm willing to change.
Right.
The third is really coming with the mindset that I want to change something.
Right. That shift in consciousness that's necessary when people are really going to alter the way they do things.
Just be open to it. So all you need to do is have a crisis, think that there may be some learning in there, and be willing and open to listen and learn the way we did. And I think, I've known you for years. It was really hard for you. It was really hard for me. And what made it a lot easier is being able to talk to you.
Right.
And just vomit my guts out and be like, "Whoa, the world's falling apart." And you listened. And half the time, I wasn't looking for an answer. I just wanted someone to listen to me.
Right.
And it's important that we do have that support where we can just be messy and ugly, and this is just the way it is, and I need some help. And by taking that willingness and a group of people who say, "I want to help you, and I want you to help me, and well, I know this, and I know that, and I know this," we could make a lot of good change.
Right.
We could take these bad events, these crisis events, and turn them into the mission that you may have been put on this earth to do.
Right.
All I want to do is facilitate people to do that. And it's so much fun to be helpful and just get the thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for helping me. And you know how nice that is.
And also then you get the feedback yourself from being around that environment again, because all through our lives we need encouragement and connection. Because, blow me down, I thought, oh, I've got this stitched, I'm a holistic health counsellor and everything's cool and groovy now. And then a bigger crisis came along.
Yes.
So the more strengthened we are for dealing with the world, the more resilient we are. And the more we come together in that way and support one another, it's all helpful.
It is. And I think just one thing I would love to leave the audience with today is something that can help them after this show. And what I would encourage you to do, take your crisis, whatever it is, get a pen and a piece of paper, not typing into your laptop or your computer or your smartphone. I want you to write out, what is your current crisis? And what do you think you're supposed to be learning from that? The writing is important. Even if you don't even have to be able to read your handwriting. You're not going to reread this. By writing this out, it slows your mind down. It makes you really think, really consider, what is this crisis? This is what's happening. What could I possibly be meant to learn from this? How could I possibly grow from this? Is there a mission here? You will be surprised at how much you get out of simply writing this down. It's called journaling. That's its official name. I would encourage you to get out a piece of paper and a pen and just simply write down that crisis that you're having and what you possibly think the learning might be.
Well, I think that's great advice. Journaling is always fantastic. And as a result of speaking with Michael today and hearing all about the Harvard Mastermind Group, I feel very inspired that we could all be looking to come together to help one another to solve problems. And I loved the idea of you come with your issue, you give it to the group, and then you leave the room and leave your self-limiting beliefs behind, your narrative, the story you tell yourselves, and then come back in and hear what other people have to say to help you. So I've loved this show with Michael, and I feel that if people can get together and help themselves in this way, we will really be pushing ourselves towards leading a life with more inner elegance and more alignment. Michael, it's been fabulous being on the show with you.
It's been great to do another show with you, Caroline. And everyone at home, please get the piece of paper, write it out, call up 2 or 3 friends, at least 3 to 5, and make your own mastermind group. And the benefits are amazing. Caroline, thanks for doing the show with me today.
Thank you.
We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.